Fashion has never been just about language. It speaks without words, reflecting power shifts, rebellion, cultural movements, and economic realities. And few names capture this truth more than Dior and Balenciaga. These two houses, separated by decades yet connected by their disruptive spirit, have bookended some of the most dramatic shifts in fashion history. Dior brought glamour and structure back to a world recovering from war in the 1940s, while Balenciaga shattered fashion norms in the 2010s, turning irony into luxury and streetwear into couture. Together, their stories tell us everything about how fashion has evolved, from strict silhouettes and old-school elegance to oversized sneakers and viral hoodies worth thousands. Let's rewind to February 12, 1947. The world was still reeling from the devastation of World War II. Cities were in ruins, economies were fragile, and rationing had shaped the way people lived and dressed for nearly a decade. Fabric was precious, clothing was practical, and glamour was nowhere to be found. Then, at 30 Avenue Montaigne in Paris, Christian Dior presented his very first collection for his brand-new couture house. The world gasped. Dior's debut collection, nicknamed the New Look, featured hourglass silhouettes with wasp-waisted jackets, rounded shoulders, and voluminous skirts that often required up to 20 yards of fabric. A shocking amount at a time when cloth rationing had only recently ended. Dior's bar suit, a cream silk jacket paired with a black pleated skirt, became an instant icon. In that single show, Dior completely redefined femininity, rejecting the austere wartime aesthetic and ushering in an era of opulence and romance. American fashion journalist Carmel Snow famously declared, "It's such a new look," cementing the name forever. Not everyone loved it. British feminists protested the return to restrictive silhouettes, seeing it as a step back for women's liberation. Others criticized Dior for extravagance in a time of global recovery. But for many women, Dior's clothes represented hope, a return to beauty, artistry, and a sense of joy. By the end of the 1940s, Dior controlled 75% of Paris's fashion exports and helped restore France's reputation as the world's fashion capital. Meanwhile, another designer was shaping the fashion landscape in a completely different way. Cristóbal Balenciaga, a Spanish couturier who had opened his Paris salon in 1937, was already considered a genius by his peers.
Christian Dior himself once said, "Haute couture is like an orchestra and Balenciaga is the conductor. We other designers are just the musicians."
Balenciaga's work was architectural, precise, and innovative. He introduced groundbreaking shapes like the sack dress in 1957, which eliminated the waistline entirely, shocking critics who were used to Dior's hourglass silhouettes. He pioneered the cocoon coat, baby doll dress, and balloon skirt, experimenting with volume and proportion in ways that are still referenced today. Balenciaga and Dior were two sides of the same coin. Dior celebrated traditional femininity, while Balenciaga pushed boundaries. Together they defined post-war couture, cementing Paris as the epicenter of high fashion. But as the decades rolled on, fashion started to democratize. The 1960s ushered in youth culture, miniskirts, and ready-to-wear clothing. British designer Mary Quant popularized shorter hemlines. Yves Saint Laurent introduced the iconic Lee-smoking tuxedo for women in 1966. And suddenly, fashion wasn't just for elites. The counterculture movements of the 1970s further challenged fashion norms. Punk, led by designers like Vivienne Westwood, rejected the polished elegance of Dior entirely, favoring ripped shirts, safety pins, and leather jackets. Fashion had become a tool of rebellion, no longer a privilege of the wealthy. By the 1980s, power dressing ruled. Designers like Giorgio Armani and Thierry Mugler redefined wealth through structured blazers, bold shoulders, and sleek tailoring. The fashion industry was booming, but exclusivity still reigned supreme. Haute couture shows remained closed-off spectacles for the elite, and luxury brands thrived on aspiration. Dior and Balenciaga, though still respected, remained symbols of classic Parisian elegance, until a seismic shift occurred in the 2010s. Enter Demna Gvasalia, the Georgian designer who took over Balenciaga in 2015 after Nicolas Ghesquiere's departure. If Dior's new look was a declaration of beauty, Demna's Balenciaga was a declaration of chaos. He flipped fashion on its head, embracing oversized silhouettes, dad sneakers, and logo-heavy designs that looked intentionally ironic. In 2017, Balenciaga released the now iconic Triple S sneaker, a chunky shoe that retailed for $895 and sparked a global ugly sneaker trend. It was a direct rejection of minimalism, proving that fashion doesn't have to be traditionally beautiful to be desirable. Demna's collections weren't just about clothes, they were cultural statements. He sent models down runways in Crocs with platform soles, $2,000 distressed hoodies, and accessories like a $2,145 leather bag, inspired by IKEA's 99-cent shopping tote. The fashion world was shocked, amused, and obsessed. Balenciaga became the most talked-about brand of the late 2010s, dominating headlines and social media feeds. In 2021, Balenciaga even staged its couture comeback after a 53-year hiatus, proving that irony and craftsmanship could coexist. What Demna did was revolutionary. He made high fashion feel more accessible, at least in terms of inspiration. Streetwear, which originated in skate and hip-hop culture, had officially infiltrated luxury fashion. No longer were hoodies and sneakers symbols of casualness. They became status symbols. Collaborations like Louis Vuitton x Supreme in 2017 solidified this streetwear luxury crossover, and Balenciaga led the charge. This wasn't just a style shift, it was a cultural phenomenon. In a world dominated by Instagram and TikTok, virality mattered more than tradition. Balenciaga mastered the art of meme-worthy fashion. Whether it was Kim Kardashian attending the 2021 Met Gala completely covered in black fabric or celebrities flexing oversized coats, Balenciaga turned absurdity into aspiration. It was a sharp contrast to Dior's post-war opulence, yet it carried the same cultural weight. And here's the fascinating thing. Fashion has always been cyclical. Demna's oversized silhouettes actually pay homage to Cristóbal Balenciaga's original sculptural designs from the 1950s and 60s. Even Dior's hyper-feminine shapes are constantly revived in modern collections. What's changed is the context. Dior's new look was born out of scarcity. Balenciaga's streetwear revolution was born out of digital abundance and irony. Today, fashion is more democratized than ever. Social media influencers wield as much power as runway designers, fast fashion brands copy couture trends within weeks, and consumers demand both sustainability and creativity. Luxury is no longer about exclusivity alone, it's about storytelling. A Balenciaga hoodie can spark conversations just as much as a Dior gown once did. Both Dior and Balenciaga represent fashion's ability to respond to cultural shifts. Dior gave women a fantasy after years of austerity. Balenciaga reflects a society overwhelmed by information, politics, and consumerism, using irony to make a statement. And yet, both brands share one common thread. They are disruptors. They challenge what beauty and wealth look like. Looking ahead, the next great fashion revolution may merge Dior's craftsmanship with Balenciaga's commentary. In a world grappling with climate change, political unrest, and a demand for ethical practices, fashion is evolving again, this time toward conscious luxury. Vintage Dior and Balenciaga pieces are more coveted than ever, proving that history always loops back. From Dior's waist-cinching bar suit to Balenciaga's oversized hoodies, the journey of fashion isn't just a timeline. It's a story of power, rebellion, and reinvention. Fashion isn't simply what we wear, it's a reflection of our world, stitched into every seam. If you love exploring the cultural impact behind iconic brands, hit that like button, subscribe, and share this with a fashion-loving friend. Because as history shows us, fashion isn't just fabric, it's one of the most powerful art forms we have, and its greatest revolution might just be around the corner.